Okay, so here today we will start with our second unit, that is methods of testing. So different methods of testing that we are going to see in this particular chapter. Already in the first chapter, we have seen the introduction to our first unit, that is software testing, its definition, why we need software testing, what are the misconceptions about it, and then different life cycle of a particular defect. That means we have seen over there like what are the different stages of a particular defect, then what are the differences between defect, error and mistake. Those all basic terminologies we have seen in our first unit. So here in the second unit we are going to see different methods of testing. So how you are going to tackle with this particular testing, what are the different methods for it, that we are going to see in this particular chapter. So coming to the about title of the chapter, or sorry, about central idea of the chapter. So this chapter is very important as it will be giving you the idea about what are the different methods of the testing, so that to segregate different kind of defects accordingly, it will be helpful for you. Importance of the chapter in the syllabus. Yes, this chapter is very crucial one, because whenever your basic terminologies will get clear, like which different methods like white box and black box testing, different methodologies are there that are aware to you, then after you will be able to separate out them while filing your bug. And chapter outcomes. So here our first and second CO will be satisfied. That is, at the end of this chapter, student will be able to first test the software to meet quality objectives and requirements, and apply testing skills to common testing tasks. Okay, so this is the syllabus for this particular unit. So here you are going to see in detail once again the software verification and validation. Already in this first chapter we have seen the difference between verification and validation. Once again we will throw some light on this concept in this chapter 2. Then again black box and white box testing, then static and dynamic testing, black box testing technique, in which we are going to see the equivalence partitioning, data testing, state testing, other black box test techniques. Okay, and then white box testing techniques, in that data coverage, code coverage, other white box test techniques. So this is the syllabus for the second unit here. Then coming towards the first bit of this chapter, that is the difference between software verification and validation. So already we have seen it in the first chapter, but here again it will be more clear to you, and that is so here the verification is, so it is the process for confirming the software that it meets its specification. So you are going to see whether your software is going to meet its specification or not. Then in case of validation, it is the process for confirming that it meets the user's requirements. Okay. So as per the specification, as per your SRS document, whether it is satisfied or not, it will be checked under verification, and in validation, it will be checked as per the user's requirement. So one scientist called as a Barry Boehm, he has suggested one definition for the verification and validation, and that is, are we building the product right? So are we using the whatever the methodology is there, that is proper or not, that will be checked here. So are we building the product right is nothing but the verification. And here in this validation, are we building the right product is the definition in case of validation. Okay, so these are the two definitions for given by Barry Boehm. So are we building the product right, that is verification, and are we building the right product, that is validation. So suppose for example, if you are asked any question in your interview, that is what is the difference between verification and validation, so at that time you can give this particular definition, like are we building the product right and are we building the right product, this kind of a definition you can give over there. Then the different techniques used in case of verification are nothing but the static testing. So what is exactly the static testing and what is dynamic testing, that will be covered in our coming bits. So till now, just keep in mind that it is the static testing. Verification is the static testing, whereas validation is nothing but the dynamic testing. Okay, then the activities involved in the verification are inspection, review, walkthrough, desk checking. So we already had a light on this particular bit, like what kind of a inspection. So you will be having maybe daily, weekly, once in 15 days or once in a month, this kind of a meetings with your clients or with your management, in which your product will be checked. If any kind of problem is there, that will be checked. So indirectly the inspections will be carried out in case of this. Then the reviews, walkthroughs. What is that? So you are going to see your product maybe step by step. You will be concentrating on this module in this week, then on second module in another week, in that way. And then desk checking, that means exactly means physically or live demonstration of your product you are going to see under this particular activity. Okay, and in case of validation, the activities involved in this are nothing but the black box testing, then white box testing, unit testing, integration testing. So black box testing, it's a detail we are going to see in this chapter only. White box testing also. Then unit testing we are going to see in the next unit itself. But what is unit testing? The unit is smallest part of your software. Okay, we can say that one particular part, and such some parts together may create one particular module. Okay, so you are going to check your software unit by unit. Okay, so that activity also be carried out under validation. And again, the integration testing. So integration testing, whether the data is properly given to another module or not. Okay, it will be processed there properly or not, that will be checked, and that is nothing but the activity of integration. So we can say that verification is followed by validation. So after verification, you will be going for the validation. Okay. Then next bit is the black box and white box testing. So what is exactly black box? testing and white box testing. Its a definition is been given over here. So black box testing, if we see towards the difference between these two. So access to the information. So here in this case, technical documents only will be given. No access to the code or information on the architecture of the tested product is being given. Okay, so whenever you are going to do the black box testing, you will be given access to the technical documents only. Okay, technical documents means the specification related to your product, what different modules are doing, what kind of a task, these kind of things will be clear to you, and you will not be having any access to the code. Okay, code or any other information. So that this is nothing but in present in case of black box testing, and in case of white box testing you will be having full access to the code. So you will be able to, so those person who are belonging to the white box testing, they will be having full access to the code and of course the architecture of the tested product. Then tested objects, second different tested objects. So here in this case, software behavior and functionality will be checked. So how the product under test works. So the behavior and the functionality will be focused more in this particular case. But in case of white box testing, the behavior and backend logic means you will be directly dealing with the code. That means logic you are going to see whether or how a product under test is been built. Okay, so that will be checked under white box testing. Then next is test performers. So who are going to deal with this particular testing? So here in case of black box testing, the QA engineers, quality assurance engineers are responsible for black box testing, whereas in case of white box testing, the developers mainly are responsible for the white box testing. Then the required information. So what is required in case of black box testing? So it is not necessary to know the backend logic. You're not going, or you're not supposed to have full knowledge of backend logic, means how, which particular processes are used, which particular loops are used, or if we go with the code, whether for loop, while loop, these loops are used, which particular function is used for this particular logic. You are not at all necessary to go with these particular logics. You are just going to check the software or your product. So not necessary to know the logic. But in case of white box testing, access to the software code is necessary for running some test. Okay, access to the software code. Why it is necessary? Because maybe for some of the units you need to perform the test separately. So at that time you must be able to have proper information to the that particular code logic, as well as you should have proper access to that code. Then testing type. So here the external and functional testing will be done. External is what? So you will be working as a so suppose if you are in the testing team, kindly mute to your mics. Okay. So testing type.
Recording in progress.
Testing type. So here external, that means if you are working in the uh, testing team, you are not the person from the developers. Okay, so at that time you will be called as a person from external team. Okay, so who is not belonging to the development team. So that way you have to tackle with the software. Why is that so? In the last unit also we have seen it, because if you are the programmer or you are the developer for one particular software, so at that time you may be having some soft feelings with your product, isn't it? So at that time you will not be in the position to find out maximum number of errors. So in this case you are or we are asking for the people from another team to test your product, so that they can handle the product rough and tough in a very rough and tough manner, so that they can find maximum number of errors. And again, functional testing is what you are going to check the functionality of each and every module of your software. Okay, in case of white box testing, it will be internal and structural. Internal means white box testing, the access to this kind of a testing is given to the teammates only, or we can say developers. Okay, as this difference here it is been given. So internal, so in the team you are going to test your product, as well as structural. So structural means what? It is going as per the design, as per the structure or not, that will be checked. Then next is test basis. So here basically what you need in case of black box testing, so business and functional requirements are necessary in this case. Functional requirements, business and functional requirements means what? Whatever the SRS document is there with you, so all those requirements, all those business logics and all those things are clear to you in this case or not, so that will be given to the test team. And here in case of white box testing, the functional and technical requirements will be given. Functional and technical requirements means what? So those requirements are nothing but your which particular module will do what type of a task, or other kind of a technical requirements. So those will be cleared in case of white box testing. Then after, the skills required. Skills required, definitely in case of black box testing, you may need the testing practices. So how much testing you do, okay, so that type of exposure to your own thing, own beings will be given. So these kind of testing practices should be carried out from your side. And here in case of white box testing, knowledge of programming languages and coding is must. Definitely if you are going to check the logic of your program, then the knowledge of that particular programming knowledge, programming language, whichever will be used, whether it is C, C++, Java, .NET, Python, whatever. So knowledge of that particular language should be must to you when you are working in the white box testing. Then testing levels. So higher levels like system and acceptance testing, that will be checked under the black box testing, whereas in case of white box testing, the lower levels are there, like unit, integration testing and all. And then the testing reports, so defects in the features and performance. If you are having any kind of a defects in the features, or if you are finding any misbehavior from the software, performance is not good, so at that time you are going to report to the proper person under black box testing. And in case of white box testing, both the products and the code defects will be found. Means here, whenever you are going to check or test your software unit wise or module wise, so whatever defects are there in the product, so that will also be listed out, as well as the code, its code also. If any logical errors are there in the code, that will also be checked under this. Okay. Now, so testing. Now coming towards exactly static and dynamic testing. So testing is the process which is divided into two parts: static testing and dynamic testing. Under static testing, the reviews, walkthroughs, etc. are being given. And in case of dynamic testing, the functional and non-functional, these are the two types over there. So now we are going to see the difference between these two, static testing and dynamic testing. So before that, any problem, any doubt? If you have any doubt, you can ask. Okay, so no doubt. So we will proceed further. So static testing and dynamic testing. Okay. So static testing is white box testing, which is done at early stage of the development cycle. Early stage means what? Whenever you are starting for your development of the software, so at that time, at each and every stages, you are going to perform the static testing. It is more cost effective than the dynamic testing. Why it is cost effective? Because the if you find any kind of error or mistake or any kind of misbehavior, then that will be recognized at the early stages only. So you are not necessary to pay extra money for resolving those errors and all. Okay, so that's why it is cost effective, whereas dynamic testing on the other hand is done at the later stage of the development life cycle, or it may be done from your software testing team. Again, static testing methods include walkthroughs, code reviews, etc. And in case of dynamic testing, it involves functional and non-functional testing. So what is functional and what is non-functional, that we are going to see in coming bits. So then next is, it is done before the code deployment and without execution of the code. Static testing is done before the code deployment. Why it is so? Because here at this stage, you're not giving your product directly to your customers. Okay, so before giving your product, your software to your customer, the testing is being done. So code deployment is not done over there, but still it will be done without execution of the code. Here in case of dynamic testing, it is done after the code deployment. With the execution of code. Then in case of static testing, this type of testing comes under verification. We already had this particular difference in case of verification and validation, and the dynamic testing, it comes under validation. Then static testing achieves 100% statement coverage in a relatively short time. So what is code coverage, that we are going to see in upcoming bits of this chapter only. 100% statement coverage means whatever the statements or the statements means the code statement. So if I have written 1000 lines of code, so whether I have reached to each and every line of the code or not, I have found, I have gone through each and every scenarios for the data testing or not, that will be checked under static testing. And also it is also this activity you have to carry out in a very short time. You cannot take much more time in this case. And in case of dynamic testing, it may involve running a several test cases, each of which may take longer time. So here in this case, you will be having different test cases with you, each of which will be taking longer and longer time. Then static testing is about prevention. Prevention is what? Like you are not allowing your software to give wrong outputs while executing that particular software. So you are going to prevent upcoming errors in your product. So that is why the static testing is required. Whereas in case of dynamic testing, it is about cure. Cure means something is gone wrong and now you are going to work on it. आजार झालेला आहे आणि त्यानंतर तुम्ही त्याच्यावरती काहीतरी वर्क करत आहात. ओके, so that is nothing but the cure. Prevention, you are already taking care of it. That is for avoiding the problems coming in the product. Then next is, in static testing, a checklist is prepared for testing process. Checklist, that means you are going to check whether these things are carried out properly or not. So that type of checklist will be there with you. And in case of a dynamic testing, the test cases are executed. So as per this checklist, also you can create your test cases, different test cases, and that could be executed under the dynamic testing. Okay, so this is the difference between static testing and dynamic testing. Now we are turning towards the black box testing technique. And under that, the first is the equivalence partitioning. So equivalence partitioning, it is also known as the equivalence class partitioning. Just a minute. Please mute your mic. So equivalence partitioning, it is a equivalence class partitioning. It divides the input data of the software unit into partitions of equivalent data from which the test cases can be delivered. Okay, so whatever the data is there, you are going to divide it in some portions so that the testing can be carried out in a simplified way. So it is typically applied to the inputs of the tested components, but may be applied to the outputs in rare cases. Sometimes to the input and sometimes to the outputs as well. So an advantage of this approach is it reduces the time required for performing the testing of the software due to less number of test cases. So how it will be there, that we are going to see in the example of this. So it helps to reduce the total number of test cases from infinite to finite. The selected test cases from infinite to finite will be checked only from the testing team. So these test cases from the groups ensures the coverage of all possible scenarios. So what type of scenarios could be there? So they are given here in the example. So first example is testing a field which accepts the age between 18 to 56. Okay, so mute your mic. Chaitali Davle, I think your mic is on. And keep it on a mute. Okay, so testing the field which accepts the age between 18 and 56. So you are writing some particular form, and in that, suppose the field say age is there, and that age field is accepting the age between these two numbers only. So how you're going to check this particular field? So this is the scenario that if the age is less than or equal to 17, you are treating it as an invalid. If it is greater than or equal to 57, then also it will be invalid. But if it is between 18 to 56, then only it will be valid one, and that particular data will be accepted. This is the scenario. Okay, so how many test cases will be there? So you are if you are taking the numbers like 0, 1, 2, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20, 21, then 51, 50, 5, 56, 57, 58, 80. So these many, this could be giving you multiple number of inputs to this particular field. But here, those infinite will be now limited to the finite number, and that is 3. So in these 3 test cases, you can check whether you have whether the data that you have entered is correct or not. So these are the only 3 test cases after at the end. Okay, similarly, second example we will see, that is the testing of a field which accepts a mobile number. So what is necessary in this particular case? Can anybody tell by taking the reference of our first example? Yes, any idea how you can check the mobile number? Who can tell? Yes, any idea? Okay, I will tell the answer. So here in this case, so whether for the mobile number, if it is 10-digit one, then only it will be considered as a valid. If it is less than or equal to 9 digits, we will take it as a invalid. If it is greater than or equal to 11, then also it will be invalid. So in this way, we can check the mobile number field by reducing the number of test cases and limiting it to only 3. Okay, so this is nothing but the equivalence partitioning. Any doubt in this? Yes, any problem? Okay, so we'll turn towards the next, that is nothing but the data testing. So data testing, it is the simplest view of software is to divide its word into 2 parts, that is nothing but the data, which or it's a domain, and the program. So you are going to divide it into data and the program. So the data is the keyboard input or mouse click, disk file, printouts, and so on. The program is the executable flow, transitions, logic, computations, etc. is there. So how you are going to check this particular data in the program? So a common approach to a software testing is to divide the test work along the same lines. So in this kind of a testing, you are checking that the information the user inputs, results that that he or she may receive, and any interim results internal to the software are handled correctly or not, that will be checked. So examples of data would be, here the examples could be the words you type in the word processor. Okay, so how the data will be checked under word processor? So whatever the typing you are doing, whatever the keyboard inputs you are giving, so whether they are there in the uh, dictionary or not, they will be checked. If you have misspelled something, then at that time red mark will be given or red underline will be given to your that particular word. Okay, so this is one of the example. Then second, the number of entered, the or number you enter into the spreadsheet. Okay, spreadsheet means what? Ki, suppose you have entered 5 numbers, so what type of action you need over there? So it's a addition, or it's a average, the count, how many number you have entered, in that way. Then the number of maybe you are playing some game, space game, then how many number of shots are remained with you? If it is the game of say 10 shots only at a time, then from those 10 shots, how many shots you have used? So this also will be considered under the data. Then the picture printed by your photo software, the backup file stored on your um, floppy disk, the data being sent by your modem over the phone lines. So all these are coming under the data for the data testing. And with this data, you are having some conditions like boundary condition, sub-boundary condition. So boundary conditions. So if a software can operate on the edge of its capability, it will almost certainly operate well under normal conditions. Boundary conditions are special because programming is susceptible to the problems at the edges. Okay. So for this particular boundary condition, we can take the example of say one array. Okay, and that array is accepting 5 inputs from the user. Fine. So this is the example array. You are taking some data, the input numbers from your user, and it is limited to 5. Okay, then and you are storing it in a array. So what could be the value of, say that array name is A, then what could be the value of A of 0, A of 1, A of 2, A of 3, A of 4, and A of 5? So that you are going to check here. So boundary value means at the age, whatever value will be given from your data, that will be promptly checked. So such cases like array or something like a stack or so, at that case, this particular thing will be rigorously checked. Then sub-boundary conditions. So some boundaries that are internal to the software are not necessarily apparent to an end user, but still need to be checked by the software tester. These are known as the sub-boundary conditions. For example, powers of 2, ASCII tables, etc. Then third is default, empty, blank, null, 0 and more. So what these type of fields are? So another source of bugs that may seem obvious is when the software requests an entry in the text box, but rather than type the correct information, user type nothing. He may just press enter. Then well-behaved software will handle this situation in which particular way? So that we are about to see. So it will usually default to the lowest valid boundary limit or to some reasonable value in the middle of the valid partition or return an error. For example, the paint editor's attribute dialog box. And finally, invalid, wrong, or incorrect and garbage data. So with invalid, wrong, or incorrect garbage data testing, here you can try as many ways as you can. So invalid data, wrong data, you can enter anything to test this particular field. If the software wants numbers, give it letters. If it accepts only positive numbers, enter negative numbers. If the date field is there and it is sensitive one, see if it will work correctly on the year, say 3000 or so. Pretend to have fat fingers and press multiple keys at a time. So by using these methods, you can check this fourth type of data testing, that is invalid, wrong, or incorrect data. Any doubt in this data testing? Any problem? Yes, anyone? Vaishali Sule, are you there? Vaishali Sule. Any problem till now? Yes, what is the problem? No doubt. Okay. Then you can unmute your mic and respond. Otherwise, I have to go again to the chat and then have to respond. Anyone else? Any problem? Okay, so we will see the next bit, that is nothing but the state testing. So state testing, it include So state testing, it includes verification of the program's logic through its various states. Okay, so a software state is a condition or mode that the software is currently in. So whenever you select some option from the menu given to the software, it may change its state. The software follows a path through the code, then toggles some bits, sets some variables, loads some data, and arrives at a new state of being. So what could be the state after doing some particular thing, some particular operation with your data? So that will be checked under state testing. Testing the software's logic flow is the first step under this. So it is usually possible to visit all the states. The difficulty is that except for the simplest of programs, it often impossible to traverse all the paths to all states. So the complexity of the software, especially due to the richness of today's user interfaces, provides so many choices and options that the number of paths grow exponentially. The solution for the software testing is to apply the equivalence partition technique to the selection of states and paths assuming some risks, because you will choose not to test all of them but reducing that risk by making intelligent choices. And second is creating a state transition maps. So the first step is to create your own state transition map of the software. So these are the examples for the same. There are several different diagramming techniques for state transition diagrams. One can use the boxes and arrows, other can use the bubbles and arrows in that way. Okay. So the state transition map should show what the first is each unique state that the software can be in. Second is the input or condition that takes it from one state to the next one. And third is set the conditions and produce the output when a state is entered or exited. So for example here, if you are waiting for the password, that kind of a field, so first of all it will be in the idle state. Escape key pressed or display the password box, it will waiting for the password. If you enter incorrect password, then again clear field and wait for password. If you enter correct password, then your initiating the next page of your screen. This is one way, that is by showing it by boxes and arrows. And second way is by using the bubbles. So this idle state, then escape key, press the wait for password. If it is incorrect, what to do? If it is correct, what to do? In that way. Okay, so bubbles and arrows will be used in this second example. One more example is given over here. So you might have seen the banking websites. Okay, you may be having uh, e-banking facility with you. Okay, then how it works? So many at times it will be accepting the password for 3 times only, isn't it? And if wrong, your account will be locked up. This is the scenario. Then how it works? So if you are trying for the first attempt, if you are entering the password in your first attempt, if it will be failed, it will go to the second attempt. If it again will be failed, it will go to the third attempt. And if it again will be failed, your account will be locked. But if in the first attempt only it is passed, you will be diverted to the home page. Second also home page. Third attempt, if it is passed, then home page. Otherwise, your account will be locked. So this way, the state transition diagram for testing of the password field will be checked. Okay, so next is black box testing techniques. In that, the state testing, reducing the number of states and transitions to the test. So creating a map for a large software product is a huge undertaking. Once you complete the map, you will be able to stand back and see all the states and all the ways to and from those states are cleared or not. So to check this, you are having 5 ways. The first is visit each and every state at least once. Test the state to state transition that look like the most common or popular. Third is test the least common paths between the states. Then fourth is test all the error states and returning from the error state. And fifth one is test the random state transitions. These are the 5 ways. Then second is what to specifically test. So testing states and state transitions involves checking all the static variables, the static condition, information, values, functionality, and so on that are associated with being in that state or moving to and from the state. Third is testing states to fail. So here you will be finding the test cases that test the software to fail. Example like rare conditions, repetitions, stress, load, etc. Next is rare conditions and bad timings. So designing the application software to take the advantage to multitasking is a difficult task. The software should handle being interrupted at any moment, be able to run concurrently with everything else on the system, and share resources such as memory, disk, communications, and other hardware. Few examples of situations that might expose the rare conditions are like saving and loading the same document at the same time with 2 different programs, then sharing the same printer, communication port, or other peripherals, then pressing the keys or sending mouse clicks while the software is loading or changing the states, or say shutting down or starting up 2 or more instances of the software at the same time, then using different programs to simultaneously access common databases. So these are the conditions, or we can say that rare conditions or bad timings at which you have to check the performance of your system. Then coming towards the next, that is repetition, stress, and load. So 3 other tests to fail state tests are repetition, stress, and load. These tests target the state handling problems where the programmer did not consider what might happen in the worst case scenario. So repetition testing, it involves doing the same operation over and over. This could be as simple as starting up and shutting down the program over and over. It could also mean repeatedly saving and loading the data or repeatedly selecting the same operation. You might find a bug after only a couple of repetitions, or it might take thousands of attempts to reveal that particular problem. Then stress testing, it is running the software under less than ideal conditions. Then low memory, low disk space, slow CPUs, slow modems, and so on. And load testing, operate the software with the largest possible data files. If the software operates on peripherals such as printers or communication ports, connect as many as you can. So there are two important considerations with repetition, stress and load testing over here, and that are there may be chances that no customer will use the system this way or stress it to the point mentioned earlier. So the answer will be yes, they will. Our job is to make sure that the software does work in these situations to report the bugs. And second is opening and closing your program a million times is probably not possible if you are doing it by hand. Likewise, finding a few thousand people to connect to your internet server might be difficult to organize. This stress testing, load testing that we are going to see in our third unit once again. Okay, so what exactly it is, how it could be, all those things we are going to see. And next is other black box testing technique. So data testing under black box testing, we have seen the equivalence partitioning, data testing, state testing, okay, and how the state is being checked. So these are all the ways for checking your data. The checking by using black box testing. So apart from these other techniques that for black box testing that we are going to see now. So how you will perform the black box testing? So first of all, you have to behave like a dumb user. What do we mean by that? Behave like a dumb user. So you need to work as a new user or inexperienced user and try the things that you never imagined. Enter the data that you never thought of, then change the mind in midstream, backup, and do something different. Surf through the websites, click the things that should not be clicked, and so on. So this may discover the bugs that have been completely missed. When you are designing your test cases or looking at the software for the first time, try to think like a dumb user. Throw out any pre-convinced ideas you had about how the software should work. If you can bring on a friend who is not working on the project to brainstorm the ideas with you, assume nothing. This will create a comprehensive set of test cases. Then secondly, look for the bugs where you have already found them. Okay, so there are two reasons for this. First is, if you find that you are finding lots of bugs at the upper boundary conditions on various features, it would be wise to emphasize the testing these upper boundaries on all features. And secondly, many programmers tend to fix only the specific bugs you report, no more, no less. So if you repeat a bug that starting, stopping, and restarting a program 255 times results in a crash, that is what the programmers will fix. Next is think like a hacker. If you are working on a black box testing side, think like a hacker. Okay, so no software is 100% secure. The hackers of the world know this particular phenomenon, that is software is no software is 100% secure, and will definitely seek to find vulnerabilities in your software and exploit them. So as a tester, try to think of what things of values your software contains, why someone might want to gain the access to them, and what methods of entry might be for them to get in. And finally, follow the experience, intuition, and hunches. So, experience and intuition can't be taught, they must be gained over the time. You can apply all the techniques you have learned so far and still miss important bugs. So take notes of what works and what does not, and try different approaches. If you think something looks suspicious, take a closer look of it. Go with your hunches until you prove them false. Experience is the name everyone gives to their mistakes. This is the statement by Oscar Wilde, and that you have to keep in mind always. Okay, so these are the other black box testing techniques. Next is white box testing, but that we will cover in our next lecture. So any doubt till now? Any problem, any doubt? You can ask the questions. Otherwise, put your attendance in the chat window and then you can leave. Put your attendance in the chat, please. Be fast, all of you. All the remaining students, put your attendance and leave.